Children's and Household Tales. Collected by the Brothers Grimm. Mary's Child. This video is not intended to present an atmospheric narrative. Rather, it is created for those who seek to read the original stories as they were published in 1812, faithfully translated from German. An interpretation is provided at the end for deeper insight. At the edge of a great forest lived a woodcutter with his wife and their only child, a 3-year-old girl. They were so poor that they no longer had enough to eat and did not know how they would feed her. One day, the woodcutter went into the forest, full of worries, to do his work. As he was chopping wood, a beautiful tall woman suddenly stood before him. She wore a crown of shining stars on her head and said, "I am the Virgin Mary, the mother of the Christ child. Give me your child, and I will take her with me, be her mother, and care for her." The woodcutter obeyed, brought his child, and gave her to the Virgin Mary, who took her up to heaven. There, the child thrived. She ate only sweet bread and drank fresh milk, her clothes were made of gold, and the angels played with her. For 14 years, the girl lived happily in heaven. One day, the Virgin Mary had to embark on a long journey. Before she left, she called the girl and said, "My dear child, I entrust you with the keys to the 13 doors of the kingdom of heaven. You may open 12 and look inside, but you must not open the 13th, which this small key unlocks." The girl promised to obey. Once the Virgin Mary had left, she opened one door each day, marveling at the magnificent rooms of heaven. Behind each door sat an apostle, surrounded by a brilliance she had never seen before. After she had opened the 12 doors, only the forbidden one remained. She resisted her curiosity for a long time, but in the end, she was overcome by it and unlocked the 13th door. As the door swung open, she saw the Holy Trinity sitting in fire and glory. She reached out and lightly touched the radiance with her finger, which immediately turned golden. Frightened, she quickly shut the door and ran away. Her heart pounded and would not calm down. A few days later, the Virgin Mary returned from her journey and asked the girl for the keys. When the girl handed them back, Mary looked at her and asked, "Did you open the 13th door?" "No," the girl replied. Mary placed her hand on the girl's chest and felt her heart racing. She knew the girl had disobeyed. "Are you certain you did not open it?" "No," the girl repeated. Then Mary saw the girl's golden finger, where she had touched the heavenly fire, and knew she was lying. She said, "You did not obey me, and you have lied. You are no longer worthy to remain in heaven." At that moment, the girl fell into a deep, deep sleep. When she awoke, she was lying on the earth, beneath a tall tree, surrounded by thick bushes that enclosed her completely. Her mouth was sealed, and she could not speak. A hollow in the tree provided her shelter from rain and storms, and at night, she slept inside it. She survived by eating roots and berries, gathering what she could reach. In autumn, she collected leaves and carried them into the hollow to keep warm when the snow came. Over time, her clothes wore out and fell apart, so she wrapped herself in leaves. When the sun shone warmly, she would step outside, and her long hair covered her like a cloak. One spring day, as she sat outside the tree, someone forced their way through the bushes. It was a king who had gotten lost while hunting in the forest. Amazed to find such a beautiful girl in the wilderness, he asked if she would come with him to his castle. She could not speak but nodded slightly. The king lifted her onto his horse and brought her home. He soon grew so fond of her that he made her his wife. A year later, the queen gave birth to a beautiful son. That night, the Virgin Mary appeared to her and said, "Confess that you opened the forbidden door, and I will restore your speech. Without it, you cannot truly be happy. But if you remain stubborn and refuse to admit your fault, I will take your child away." Still, the queen insisted she had not opened the door. So Mary took the child and disappeared. The next morning, when the baby was missing, whispers spread that the mute queen had eaten her own child. A year later, the queen bore another son. Again, the Virgin Mary appeared and asked her to confess. Again, the queen denied it, and again, Mary took the child. This time, the king's advisors spoke openly. They were convinced the queen was a cannibal and demanded she be punished. But the king loved her and refused to believe it. In the 3rd year, the queen gave birth to a daughter. That night, the Virgin Mary appeared once more, took her into heaven, and showed her the 2 lost sons, who were playing with a world globe. "Now," Mary said, "admit your sin and stop lying." But the queen remained unmoved, still insisting she had not opened the door. Mary left her and took the third child with her. This time, the king could no longer hold back his advisers. The people demanded justice. Since the queen was mute and could not defend herself, they declared her guilty and sentenced her to death by fire. When she was bound to the stake and the flames began to rise, the queen's heart was filled with remorse. She thought to herself, "Oh, even if I must die, how I wish I could confess to the Virgin Mary that I opened the forbidden door. How wrong I was to deny it." At that moment, the heavens opened. The Virgin Mary descended, holding the queen's 3 children. The fire immediately went out. Mary stepped forward and said, "Because you have finally wished to tell the truth, your sin is forgiven." She returned the children to the queen, opened her mouth so she could speak again, and granted her happiness for the rest of her life. A possible interpretation considering the time period. The tale Mary's Child carries strong Christian and social themes. Obedience to divine and societal authority is rewarded, while disobedience is harshly punished. Curiosity and defiance, especially in women, lead to social exclusion. Reintegration into society is only possible through repentance and submission. The fire serves as both punishment and purification, emphasizing that true justice comes from God, not humans. Conclusion. This fairy tale reflects the religious and societal ideals of its time. It likely served as a moral lesson, teaching obedience, honesty, and repentance, especially for women, who were expected to follow authority without question. However, it is also a story of forgiveness and redemption. Even after a grave mistake, there is a path to return, if one is willing to confess and seek forgiveness. What do you think? Was this just a bedtime story, or does it hide a deeper meaning? Do you have your own interpretation? Share your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear them. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing for more stories and discussions. And if you have any constructive feedback, let me know, I'm always looking to improve.